But I think at some point you have to really go on the field and look at really what makes number one so unique, and what can I do to not actually replicate only what number one is doing, but overtake and really build something that is at least 10 times better than the number one.
All right, welcome to SEO Unveiled. Today, I've got a really awesome guest. It's Baba Hausmann. He works as in-house head of SEO at Mollie, the most loved payment service provider in Europe. Baba has been in SEO since 2012, so we know he's got a ton of experience. Most of it is built on working with startups, small, medium-sized businesses, and scale-ups. He particularly enjoys the challenge of building the case for SEO, knowing perfectly well himself that it's the best channel of all. And in his spare time, if he has any, I'm not sure how much he does have, he supports and mentors startups on SEO. He evangelizes that in a limited budget is no excuse. This is where SEO can strive for the best. Creative ideas, unique perspectives, and immense opportunities for growth. He truly believes that and has demonstrated that small teams can bring massive results if they focus on the right thing, which is for him to do your research right and be ruthless in your priorities. I really want to welcome Baba to the show today. Thanks, Baba, for joining us.
Thanks, Clay. I'm very excited. It's a very great opportunity, and looking forward to chat more about my passion of SEO.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's always interesting to hear people's stories about SEO and how they got started. And I feel like you must have a pretty interesting story of why you got into SEO in the first place. So why don't we start there?
Yeah, actually, no, you're wrong. I don't have a very fun story, just like it came by chance, really. I don't have any side project that I started on, and then I went into SEO. I just got lucky right after finishing my studies. I got hired in Germany in a startup in fashion e-commerce, and then that was at the time, when you had Panda and Penguin that just started. So it was really fun to see the kind of the changes going towards more user-driven SEO, and they have all this fun thing. And then my passion build up, and I'm enjoying every moment of it, and having fun really with startups, with scale ups, different SMBs on really getting the let's say the gospel of SEO out.
Yeah, it sounds like you were really thrown straight into the fire when you first got involved, because coming in and Panda being there very quickly after you joined, I feel like most SEOs would be like, that's a pretty rough go, because everything kind of resets, and then you have to kind of reset your priorities and reset like your strategy and figure out what are you going to be doing next, and how do you kind of get over some of sometimes either a bump up or a bump down from the different updates.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially with the website we're some kind of like a unnecessary middleman to Google. So it was even more difficult with Panda coming in to create content that is awesome, that is really helping the user, that is inspiring. So we had a bit, a few bumps along the way, but eventually we managed. And Penguin didn't help also on some markets, doing more the old school SEO and link building. So that was a tough learning, but made it fun, and actually I learned faster this way, I think. So I'm very happy about this.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you talk about kind of like old school methods and talk about backlinking, because I feel like people still talk a lot about backlinking. What's your take on getting backlinks? Like, what do you think works today, or is it something that people should still be doing?
I do think people should be still doing this. I think it's different per market. Also, I mean, I know more in Europe. So you would have, for example, in the German market, the SEO understanding is more mature than it is, for example, in France. That has changed, of course, in the last few years. But when you say, I want a link in Germany, they know it's for SEO, and it's a bit more tricky. While in France, it's a bit different. So those are two examples. But I think the way you do SEO does evolve. I'm a bit worried about also, all the buying of links. That's something I try to avoid, but sometimes it's necessary. So it works. Everyone has a different take on this. For me, I do prefer to have more like campaigns that are a bit more holistic towards like the whole marketing, online marketing discipline. So really mixing a bit of branding, PR, of course, SEO, content, strategies and so on, where you just create something and, well, the goal is to break the internet, right? So the goal is really to do this and get a lot of links. Not all of them will be insane and great, maybe just to the homepage, but that's also, brand awareness. It will benefit your SEO overall. So that's something that I really, truly believe in. It's difficult, takes a lot of investment, or sometimes just 24 hours and a great idea and easy execution. But the reward is absolutely amazing. It's a thrill. It's something I always like strive for. So yeah, I see like that as a great benefit for the business, but also personally.
Yeah. Definitely makes a lot of sense. So I think, one thing that I keep on wanting to understand from people is a little bit about the trends that they're seeing in SEO right now that they're excited about, because I feel like everybody has a different take on what right now means and what's exciting in SEO.
Yeah. So for me, I would say there's three trends really that I really enjoy and work on. So one is more about the rankings really, or like how you position yourself. And it's something you see or I start seeing more chatted about is the zero volume keywords. So it's something that is not new, of course. You have tons of tools out there that don't have like a perfect data set, and that's normal. They will never have. But what is interesting with this is that we're switching more from pure search engine optimization to more user optimization or user intent optimization, of course. So it's really about having a great understanding of not only the business, but also user, and knowing exactly the question they ask and not worrying so much about the search volume. Of course, that's difficult with the stakeholders. It's difficult to sell, but that is fun because that's where I think SEO is very powerful. There is about educating people. It's like it feels like black magic most of the time, and you can use that as a force. That's what I do. And it's really about explaining, okay, why people might be interested in this. And then you try just launch a few content and you see the magic happening. And that's where you can really show off and then get more resources to it. So that's something I really enjoy doing, because really I feel more connected to the business than really just looking at, oh yeah, it has that much search volume, I will just go for it. And a great thing, usually the competition is not there. So because they're looking at search volume. So that's one trend. Another trend I really like, and it's also more personal. It's actually AI content, but I want to be careful about this. It's not about AI content like creating content on the scale, but it's more using as a assistant copywriter. I'm saying that's personal more because there's one thing that I'm very bad at, and I'm very proud to say it, is writing content. I always say, if I had more time, I will write a shorter email. That is my life. I'm suffering a lot, but I'm having fun with it too. And really, like by using AI on some topics, I have the ideas. I have like a lot of things I want to talk about, but I just don't know how to express it properly. So having AI kind of use the right sentences or the right structure and so on, I not only like get my ideas out there and written in a nice way, but I learn also from the way it's built and it's written. So that is something that do enjoy seeing, but also seeing like in SEO, how does that play in and how Google reacts to it, of course. And the last thing about that, and I think it's as important to me. SEO is about, of course, ranking links and so on, but there's always something that's super important: the processes you have behind your SEO program, or like your SEO machine. And one is really by using Python, NLP, machine learning, all those like kind of modern stuff, I would say, really to get your process right and to spend less time actually, or actually more time on the thing that really matter, the things you're excited about, and not the thing that can be really automated. So things that can be automated, keyword research with NLP machine learning can be absolutely automated. Keyword classification and stuff like this, it's never perfect, but you have to start somewhere and get things
Yeah.
rolling. So yeah, those are basically trends I'm really I really have an eye for. I'm really looking into and having fun trying to come up with ideas and then developing them.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a whole bunch of great stuff here to talk about. And I mean, we could start with the like Python and NLP stuff. Like how much post, the program running, do you have to how much post stuff do you have to do to kind of reorganize or make sure things are 100%? Or are you getting to like 99% of it's essentially spot on, and then it's just like one or two that are off?
No, that takes more time. Yeah, right now I'm just more started with this, so
Yeah.
I'm not really confident of saying like answering that question. Let's say, but it's
Okay.
more with Python right now. I mean, the thing that I've used in the past were mainly, I mean, uh, usually SEOs right are just one or two SEO at first, and then you have a ton, well, sorry, shitloads of people around you, a
Yeah.
lot of stakeholders really that are there and that don't know anything about SEO, but they have to do things in order to prevent them to break your SEO program. And one way that I had is what at some point they were launching a lot of content campaigns, so like really a lot of landing pages. And as the only SEO, I was like, okay, I need to have an eye for that. So I have to look at everything that they launch. So
Sure.
at some point, when you have multiple markets, on one week, you have maybe 20, 30 pages that are being live. I
Yeah.
don't want to check that myself. So I learned Python from scratch, and I just created a very small and simple script just to check a landing page. It's a landing page was published. It was an RSS feed to Slack. It would fetch this URL and check different things like meta titles, description, all the links if they're working or not, different things I wanted to look at, and then it would send a report directly to the person who published it directly on Slack. So I don't have to do anything,
Yeah.
and they own more of like the SEO performance in that sense there. So it's just like small things like this that really do help making my job easier. And
Sure.
if you have a robot taking care of it, it's even
Oh
nicer.
yeah, for sure. For sure. The
Yeah,
robot is super helpful. And then when
yeah,
it comes to AI content, that's something that's super controversial. So I think you hit on
yeah,
that there's a lot of difference between just saying AI content and what is the implementation like and what are people using it for. And so you talk about like as a copywriter, what do you mean by that exactly? Do you mean, you come up with the keyword and the ideas or outline and you have it fill in a little bit, or how do you think is the best way for you to use it
yeah.
in your use case?
Yeah, I mean, in my use case, really is so as I said, I mean, and you presented also in my bio, is that I do believe that the research is important, and then the rest is just like fun and just easy to do. Once the research
Yeah.
is done right, you're good to go. So by this, I mean, so of course you have to do your due diligence, let's say, so keyword research, looking at competition, the search anatomy, and so on. And from this, you're able to come up with, of course, the keywords and then an outline with a search intent and so on. And from this, you can create then the AI content based on this, and then refine it to remake it more your own. And that's what I do. I try to make it more myself, but I have
Sure.
still like an AI that basically built the sentences for me,
Yeah.
and then it's me like just making sure that it fills my brand or it fills the brand I'm working for. So
Yeah.
it's that is the way I use it. Like I don't believe we should just use AI to spit out content just fast. I mean, I wouldn't do,
Yeah.
with one exception in mind. And it was before the helpful content update. So let's see after. I mean, we have to see, to still try and see how it reacts to it. But one thing you could, or I would use AI in that sense, is also for content that are less visible. It's on the website, just to launch some content out there to get a response and to get data from impression. It doesn't mean you're going to have clicks, but just to have like an impression of how people are potentially finding this content. And then there you get true data, and then you can use that to create other topics or to refine and refresh this content.
So like
so
as a
that's one
starting
way.
point, like if
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
a brand, you don't have much content at all, and it's going to take like a year to develop a bunch of content, maybe put out like 10 different pieces on 10 different keywords to see what kind of works in your market, and then take those topics that are winners and then revise those to make them kind of more evergreen in the material.
I mean, yes, but with keeping in mind that it's like creating this type of content, and that's something that I think is important. It's just like temporary. It's just like to kind of test. It's an experiment, right? And once you've done the experiment, well, you do whatever with the content, of course. But for me, it would be like, okay, well, I've experimented on that topic. Went with 3 different angles, let's say. This one wins. What do I do with the others? Do I kill them and redirect them to one, or do I create more content, spin off, and so on? So it's really more as an experiment, knowing that it might not bring any clicks, but it's more about looking for the impressions potentially, and then see, okay, can I use this, and how does Google react to this? Like, is it something that they completely trash? And it's like, no, that's not helping the user. Or is it something that has potential? Of course, we're just starting with this, right? So it's experiments, and you have to see really what works. But I think we still need to be there for the user rather than being like a content machine.
Yeah, definitely there for the user seems to be super important these days.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then you talk about the like transition from like SEO to user intent optimization. Can you talk a little bit more about the difference between kind of like maybe the former of how you kind of looked at SEO before the switch to user intent optimization, and how you're doing it differently now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what I would say I do now. I mean, before it's really difficult to look at it like how I did. It's just I feel like I was really more relying on a data set. Like I would look at a spreadsheet and just like look at where I see a gap. So really looking at the data, but not really looking at the pages that are there and so on. So the thing that I'm doing differently now is more really looking at, for a certain query in a certain market in a certain language, is really to look at the how Google interprets the keyword. Like really looking at the SERPs, really like having a deep dive on it. You can look, of course, at the SERPs, what it has in there, like video, images, and so on. So like there you get a feel of the intent, but it's also about looking It's also with looking of the number 1, number 2, and number 3. I would not worry about the other ones. It's just like, okay, how does Google feel that those results are of quality results? And the thing that also changes there, and because of the user intent, of course, you're looking at the keyword that is there, and you try to understand your intent, the intent by yourself with the product and or service you have. But then it's also, okay, looking at the number 1, really like, does it match the intent? Does it provide an answer to the question? Is it something that you can do? And that's something that where it's not, I mean, you can find a way or a proxy to get that with just looking at data. I mean, you get more and more of those tools where you can do this. That's great. But I think at some point you have to really go on the field and look at really what makes number 1 so unique, and what can I do to not actually replicate only what number 1 is doing, but overtake and really build something that is at least 10 times better than the number 1. That's basically the thing that you have to relook at. Yeah, I said 10 times better.
10x better. That's a great. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, 10 for me it's fairly easy, because with one time better is once, but twice better is just like, okay, that's great. 3 times better is still biased. 10 times better is just like, okay, I'm answering to that question, but I'm also not only answering that question, I'm already kind of anticipating questions that are coming from that question. So I'm trying to go the step further in order to have really a good first impression to the user, to the reader.
Yeah. So I mean, it sounds like it's covering a topic in real depth in a further depth than maybe even they intended at the beginning, to give them a really thorough explanation to kind of deep dive into where they're going, right?
Yeah,
With
absolutely.
different type of content, but also thinking through what would they be doing next, not just what they're
Absolutely.
doing right now. That's really
Absolutely.
cool. Yeah.
And in there, it's really having at least some understanding, because it's very difficult to have like the full understanding, but having some understanding of the customer journey, of course.
Yeah.
So because then that's the best way you can anticipate, right? So try to match that. To me, that's something that is working and worked in the past, and it's just like, okay, Google is really rewarding that kind of content.
Yeah. So I mean, with all these different kind of ways and trends going on, and what I've kind of seen in a lot of clients that we worked with and a lot of companies, is that, the people around are not always as interested in helping implement some of these new ways of doing things. How are you getting these types of ideas that are, a little bit more unique? You talked about the zero volume keywords, and getting those prioritized and things like that. It sounds like overall you come up with a lot of different types of tactics and trends that are a little nuanced versus what typical SEOs are doing, or what they had been doing for the last 5 years. So how are you getting those prioritized in your company, and what's the difference between what you're doing and what maybe other people are doing to get initiatives prioritized?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I think that's potentially just my personal approach. So I mean, now I've been celebrating my 3 years at Mollie, and I've done. It feels like I haven't done much, but eventually, in retrospect, like actually, we started from very far.
Yeah.
So I was the first SEO there. So there was this whole education I had to do, and the education part is something I truly personally believe in. Because as I said, SEO is a bit like black magic. So there's a lot of myth also, and so on. So you have to really kind of clear the way. You have to really explain things. To say an example of how far we were, like when I started on the first week, people were like, "Oh, you're the new CEO manager." I was like, "Yeah, I wish. I'm not sure what it is, but like I wish." So like it was that far, and then it was about doing some bold things. So really like presenting in a very bold way. So the first presentation I did to the whole company was to say like there was SEO for dummies, basically. So I didn't explain what SEO was. That's the thing that is bold. I don't want to explain to people. I just want to say, hey, whenever you see one of those words, just reach out to me. That's it. And I just spent 20 minutes just repeating a list of words, and I didn't put any context, no explanation in it. So I really tried to put a mark on it. I think what's funny, it was very, very awkward, but I had so much fun doing it, really.
What were some of these words that are like that people should just go to you for?
Yeah, so there was things like, of course, keywords, indexation, index, robots, follow, no follow, link, even linked.
Yeah.
Like so it's really random, but like also redirect, 404. So there was a bit of technical, there was a bit of content, there was off page, just like the whole scope of SEO. But I knew that some words people would hear it because that company is more like product first, or really engineer first. So there was a
Yeah.
lot of that. And so I just went with those, like the common words we have. But what was important for me is not to explain them yet, but then along the way to go in details more and educating people in the organization. And by doing this, my approach was, I mean, I'm using a term that another SEO is doing. She's doing that very well. Jessica Bauman, she's using that, the SEO army.
Yeah.
So that kind of the thing that I'm doing, but really a bit like a marketer is doing. It's like the work of a marketer. So talking to the right audience. So knowing that the people in product marketing, the people in the web team, the people in the content team, they have this different audience. They talk differently.
Yeah.
They have different words they're using. They have different problems. And what I would do is like have a training absolutely dedicated to that audience, and then on a monthly basis really engage them, say like, hey, well, that's what worked, what didn't work, that's something new you can learn, and so on. And thanks to this, you have a lot of curiosity that you get getting developed about SEO. And sometimes you want, or at some point we reach like more the proactivity. So and that's the way I get SEO prioritized then and now is because people are interested and they know what they can do or cannot do. And they know that SEO is important.
Sure.
So I mean, there was educating first, and then there's also kind of three steps: educating, so putting the base, the foundations. Then there is more about be there and everywhere. So we're using Confluence and Jira every time. So I set up alerts and searches and so on. So I get spammed the hell by Confluence. That's fine.
Yeah.
But every time that someone creates a page that I think can have an impact on SEO, I'm the first in their comment, like add a question and so on, and say, "Hey, have you thought of SEO?" A bit like, "Hey, have you met Ted? Hey, have you thought of SEO?" And people are just like, "How come are you so fast?" I'm just like, "Don't worry, I deal with this."
How
So
come
it's
we
really
so
like, yeah. And it's just about being there and saying, "Hey, I care really about SEO, and like if you do this, I think the idea is great. I think it's a great thing. I don't want to be a blocker. I want really to enable them, but just like if you do this, you might ruin at least 6 months of my work, or I have to fix that I have a year until we get results, and it's not going to help you eventually." So
Yeah.
they're a bit scared of me a bit, but that's not the goal. And the last thing really to get things prioritized is there's a bit of politics, because SEO touch, like there's a lot of stakeholders involved, right? So
Yeah.
it's about getting to know the people. It's about learning about each department, what they do. Even like I learned a lot about legal. I learned a lot about compliance things. That's just things that I don't know, but I can see that then I have a better understanding of the company. I have a better understanding also for users and so on. And it's really, we're working together on one goal. So it's really having like this whole thing. And I have to say that really helps me a lot. Right now, we're working on a very heavy project where it's basically SEO first. And that was initiated by SEO. And I can tell you in many companies, it's not. We're working with a lot of agencies, and they're fairly impressed about the way SEO is handled for that project. I'm very proud of it, of course, but it's a long way. A lot of patience, but also a lot of fun just doing this. And then the reward is just like amazing, for me, at least right now.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, because I mean, you could definitely see the reward in traffic and new revenue and things like that. So I think
Absolutely.
feel like it's a good way to be able to measure impact is SEO, because it's not as fluffy as a lot of other areas in marketing, and hard to kind of pinpoint. You can pretty much nail it down pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, one thing that I'm wondering, you seem like you're really ahead of the curve on a lot of different things. What are you doing to stay so plugged in to kind of the new things that are going on, to try to figure out how to create, this realm of leverage over competitors, if you will?
Yeah. I mean, there's one key thing, and I mentioned earlier that processes are everything, and efficiency is very important for me. Which is I don't subscribe to newsletter, but let all the industry publications come to me. So via Slack, RSS feeds, I come into it every morning. I check it.
Yeah.
There are sometimes when I'm on holidays, I don't check them. That's fine, but I catch up with them after. But not everything there is important. Not everything is interesting. But I managed to find my way around it, and just the things that I feel like are relevant for later, I save on Google Keep notes, and the thing that I feel not relevant right now, trash, and the other things I just then communicate about or do act on it right away. So it's basically this, and then having a fair understanding of the competition. Like I've done a work where it was that's something that I just initiated, which was looking at just on LinkedIn who of my competitors have a SEO team. I could tell you that then most of them don't have an SEO team at the time I checked. That helps because then I can say, oh, well, this one, okay, they're doing this not because of SEO, they have another agenda in mind, or it's very basic SEO and so on. So I can really adapt on this. I find really the right sources for informing my strategy. So this, And the last thing is really meeting SEO people. So I really enjoy organizing events. Yesterday I had a bit of SEO after work in Amsterdam, where I'm based.
Yeah.
A few too many beers, but it was fun. Yeah, exchanging with other SEOs. We're easily, lost in our bubble. And I was at Mollie for the first few years where I was just the only one. But by exchanging with other people in other industry really help, because you can get, I get very, very much inspired by things that happen in more like B2C SEO.
Yeah.
Well, we are only doing B2B, but like we can exchange knowledge, and then it's the way, like, how are you willing to take the chance or the risk, or to be bold about taking a bit of this initiative and transform it and transcribe it to your own company.
And
So
what
yeah.
do you see? What are you seeing as the difference between doing SEO for B2B versus B2C?
Yeah, with B2C, I compare with more e-commerce. For me, the big difference is, the technical SEO, at least for us, is not that insane as for e-commerce. Of course, it's fairly easy in general. So there's like a big chunk of my work, which is, okay, having a good understanding of the technical SEO for website, very important. But it's not the core of my work. And really the content, that is something that is super important, where, at least for the experience I have in B2B, the content needs to be more factually correct, in a way. It doesn't mean that in B2C doesn't have to be, but
Sure.
I think the discipline is more, there's more discipline around it. Of course, it doesn't help that you have website or like your money, your life website, where you have to be even more factually correct.
Sure.
But yeah, that's something that I think is super critical, and those are the main differences that I see. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you can have different kind of tonality and different kind of subjects that aren't as, you know, like your money, your life. You can have a little bit more variation of opinion and things like that that are
True.
easier, kind of lighter reads, I guess, maybe.
Yeah.
So, kind of wrapping, kind of getting towards our wrap up area. I always like to ask people what everyone in our space should stop doing.
Yeah. Yeah, this one is pretty easy, and I might be the advocate of Google here. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
not my intent. But I for some years now, I stopped looking at Google updates. Like when someone comes and says like, "Hey, we have an update," I'm like, "Oh yeah, great."
Yeah.
So I'm not working. My work is not really to please Google. My work is to please the users. And I know Google is going that direction. All the updates that they have recent years and recent days is towards this, of course. So how can I make sure that I'm on top of things for the users? Because I know Google will reach that point at some point. So like I lost track. Of course, the helpful content, I heard of it, of course, and I look into it, but right now at the time we speak, there is little tremors. There's nothing really striking. Good to know. We were pretty safe on our end too, but it's just like, does that help me to know like with there's little tremors, or I just like maybe spending my time on the wrong things? So I prefer to
Sure.
look at things that are really impactful and that help our business.
I mean, I feel like that's a good way to look at it because, every few months there's another Google update,
Mhm.
and a lot of people, kind of tears their life apart for a couple of weeks. And so if you think about it as, little tremors along the SEO journey of, if you're just still focused on user intent and helping improve the user experience with the aim towards, helping them get towards your product as well, that's kind of going to get you a lot of the way past the
Absolutely.
worry about, did you do something bad that Google doesn't like today? Because they've seen, I still feel like there's a lot of room to go. I still see
Yeah.
those, like, if I search for, like, I don't know, the best kind of pliers or something like that, I still get these videos like easy vid that's like top 5 screenshots, or like,
Yeah.
here's the 5 Amazon, descriptions kind of rewritten, but it's the same thing, and they're not helpful, and they've never used the product. And
Yeah.
as long as I still see that, I feel like there's room for user intent based search to make a lot of ground up.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's also like the role of us SEOs to make sure we're pushing towards this. Of course, you have a lot of people that will benefit from a bit different ways of doing SEO. That's fine, but I think it's also our role as SEO to push towards this greater and I think funner, like I don't nicer way to do, and actually not only SEO but to do marketing in general, and just like satisfy the user and user intent in that sense, and
Yeah.
and help the business.
Sure. And then what do you think people in our space should start doing today that they're not doing typically?
Yeah. So I think for me it's pretty easy. Is talk more to the team that not necessarily don't know SEO but are closer to your customers.
Sure.
So the example for us, it's about who is talking to our customer in B2B. It's mainly sales and support. So when you talk to them, you understand the word they're looking for and the word they're talking about. So that's the keywords.
Yeah.
The best keyword research you can do is not looking at tools. It's looking at the words that they're typing in the support, on the chat, that they're typing in the email to sales, in conversation to sales. It's also like, if you have this, then it's going to be easy. And then by doing this, you're also empowering your sales and support team to somehow be proactive and come up with ideas that they say, hey, I have an idea. I think it could be a great SEO topic. Well, first, let me be the judge of this. But thank you for your idea. I will let you know. And then I'll contact you to get actually all the information from you. We'll put that in a content and then we'll send that to you. You can use that content for your outreach, for your support, and so on. So double benefits. And then we'll monitor, and in a few months we'll tell you, okay, that's performing well or not, and then we'll improve on this. So that's really like, that is something that is, it's a resource you already have close to you. You don't need to spend any money on it, and it is extremely valuable. It's kind of the golden nugget, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like there's some room there. Like I almost want to go through like my Zendesk support tickets and just put all that information like a word bubble generator to generate like the biggest words that are just appearing over and over for our product to understand how what are the words that people use to characterize what's going on or the problems that they're having.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I mean, yeah, there's this. I mean, you can use also NLP. You can use speech to text API.
yeah,
The problem you have to do this, and especially in Europe, you have to anonymize everything with like GDPR and so on, right?
yeah,
So, but it's not impossible. It can be done. Maybe it takes some time to develop such thing. Of course, you have to adapt to your own system internally. But like the value of this is absolutely it's key, right? And then those are like the zero volume keywords, but
for
they're
sure.
already used. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I definitely want to give you some time to share a little bit more about, what you're working on, how people can contact you. Is there anything that you want to like focus a spotlight onto about projects you're working on the side? Definitely want to get kind of your
Yeah.
take on that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as I said, like I have my main activity, which is at Mollie, but on the side, I'm also mentoring and helping startups mainly. So I'm currently working on developing an online course together with a kind of mentoring for startups.
Yeah.
So I will share the link with you. It's really a program for startup. With what is important for me is like with limited seats and with some kind of selection. Right now, I'm still like defining what the selection is, but for me, it's important that is some kind of a company that make the world a better place in a way. So
Sure.
that's really broad, right? It's on purpose.
Yeah.
That could be a social or ecological impact, but there's something that can be done here, and I really want to help those startups that don't necessarily have an understanding of SEO, that don't necessarily have the team, not the budget. But I know for a fact that with no budget, you can actually a big David versus Goliath. You can really overtake your competition and make absolutely wonder and see and have your product or your service being seen by the people that matter the most to you. So that's
Sure.
something that I'm working on, and yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. And how can people get in touch with you for stuff like that?
Yes, absolutely. So you can reach out to me via email at baba@seosman.com. So SEOsman is SEOSMANN.com. It's kind of a pun on my last name and SEO, of course. And then I can reply to any questions. I can really help provide mentoring or ideas. I'm really keen on sharing knowledge, and I'm really keen on helping the smaller teams in being better at SEO.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So I really want to thank you, Baba, for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure. And I think a lot of people will get a ton of value from this episode. So thanks so much. And we'll talk later, I hope.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure.